What does Angel Share smell like?
Jesus. Oh man, no, it smells great. I gotta like get in the zone. You know, it's a big thing. Yeah, straight. You're right. Straight off the bone.
No, you were telling me to just be myself, so you just need to be yourself.
I will. What is up, guys? My name is Ryan, and we have a special guest in the building. We have Lewis from Bourbon Heads. Lewis, what is going on, man?
Oh, not much, man. Drove in from Oklahoma today. It's been a great day. Ryan kind of showed me around Nashville a little bit. Took me to a special place.
We did, man. We actually went to the very exclusive whiskey house.
We did.
That was a great time. We are not allowed to actually share what was shared with us as far as the pours because someone might get fired.
But we did get to meet the man himself, Mr. John Brittle.
Mr. JB himself. Amazing time, as always, there at the whiskey house. Sorry it was short-lived, but next time you come in town, we'll make sure that we have a much longer time there and do a little bottle share. But first and foremost, man, we're gonna pour ourselves a drink. So we're gonna go with the Old Forester 117 Angel Share. Have you had this before, Lewis?
I haven't.
Well, this is exciting for me then for you to get to try this. So tradition states you always pour your guest first. Look at that. It's glorious. Man. Cheers, bro. Oh my gosh. Tell me what you think, man. What are you getting on the nose on this?
Man, honestly, I'm getting a lot of ethanol right up front.
Yeah?
Right off the bat. I get some oak on the nose. It's the first note I got.
I'm getting a little tobacco and leather actually on this one, but this has changed a lot since the last time we tried it when Sean was here in town and bought this for us from California. But
I would even say maybe like a brown sugar note.
Let's take it to the palate, man. Cheers, bro.
Cheers.
Glad to have you here with Staves and of course Sequel MV. Man, that's good. I don't think Old Forester can go wrong on many things there. There was a few birthday bourbons that didn't go as big of a hit as others, but man, these little 375s are incredible.
I really enjoy their barrel strength rye.
Yeah,
those K7s.
So have you ever had one from the G Warehouse? I believe it's G4.
I might have. I mean, I've had multiple of those over the years. I just know that the K7 stands out to me.
There you go. Well, I've got some at the house. So later, if you would like, feel free to partake in that.
But I will say there's a few of the barrel strength bourbon picks that I've had that I wasn't necessarily impressed with. But we did a blind virtual tasting a few weeks ago, and the Old Forester barrel strength bourbon was a goody liquor pick.
Okay.
It was a standout in that. It was really good.
Love it. I mean, with a name like Goody, you can't
good,
really
right?
fail. If you fail, you failed everyone at that point, and your namesake. But anywho, so we are glad to have you here for the podcast. So tell us, man, about Bourbon Heads. How did it start? How did this idea kind of come into fruition?
Man, so Brett Kolomajek, one of the founders, Brett and I have been friends for years. We became friends because of bourbon. So I was over at Brett's, or we were somewhere, and he had pitched it to me. He's like, "Hey man, what do you think about this idea?" And I was like, "That sounds pretty sweet, you know." And I was like, I think you're onto something here, and I think that there's something that could be done with that. And so a couple months later, every year we take this kind of bro trip, and we were driving to New Mexico.
Come on.
And so on this bro trip, we take tons of bourbon. I think the New Mexico trip, we probably had 25 to 30K in value of whiskey with us.
Jeez.
And so, and just in like Brett's truck alone, there's probably like $10,000 worth of whiskey. But on the road, you know, we had a 9, 10, 11 hour drive, whatever. whipped out a laptop. We started brainstorming. We started putting things together of what Bourbon Heads would look like. And from there, we kind of created the initial vision. And so we're like, man, we want to do something that we can create the largest collection of whiskey in the world.
Yeah.
But we want to do it. So Brett and I met through whiskey. We wanted to be able to make a huge community with it as well. And so we went back and forth on numbers. We're like, well, how about we start like a 5,000 member club where people buy into it. And when people buy into it, we basically take that money, take part of that money, start an initial collection, and from there start some speakeasies as well.
Come on.
The specifics of the speakeasy would be we want people to be able to try those rare bottles, try all those allocated bottles and things that would be in that collection. So bottles would be rotated out of that collection into bars, into tasting rooms, into the member clubhouse, whatever, so these members could try them. Because, you know, some people will go to a bar like you went to last night, and you said a pour of Blanton straight from the barrel was $100.
It was $100 after tax. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, that's outrageous.
It was outrageous. Absolutely was outrageous.
You and I went to a bar in Dallas.
You're right.
And we had SFTB Gold and Blanton Single Barrel all on a flight for $30. And so, you know, we want to be able to offer a great product at an affordable price.
Yeah.
And so basically we're like, all right, if they're a member, then they can get this product at that price. So on and so forth. So I lost my train of thought there.
So yeah, you were kind of discussing with us how this happened and brainstorming on the way to New Mexico and all these bro trips.
Yep.
And one thing that I want to kind of go back to is you said you and Brett met and became friends through bourbon and whiskey.
Correct.
Which I think, I mean, essentially, that's why you're sitting in this room with us right now. We met through whiskey. It may have been through a different social media platform, but essentially we had this one common thing, right? This common niche that we share. And you invited me out. You just so happened to be out in Nashville, and you invited myself and Matt out to a bottle share. And from that day on, we just kind of been boys. So right. I think that it's awesome. And I think that the community that whiskey and bourbon builds and creates, it's unlike many other communities that I've been a part of.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, the amount of people that I've met through bourbon. I mean, Jacob, I came out here with a friend today. He rode out here with me, and, you know, he volunteered his time, and he's a great guy. And I would have never met Jacob if it wasn't for bourbon. The first time I tried Stitzelweller Pappy Van Winkle was with Jacob. So, I mean, bourbon is, people who drink bourbon are generous. They're friendly. They're family, you know? I mean, I can't say it any better than that. And so that was like a big part for Brett and I on like what Bourbon Heads could be. And we want to have that community, this tight knit that is generous, that, you know, like I love to take a really nice bottle to a bottle share and drink that nice bottle with my friends and with other people who like bourbon. Or like if you go to a bottle share and you take something nice, even someone you've never met before, you know, they show up and you have something really great on the table. They get to try it. Yeah. And from there, you just kick off a new friendship.
That's exactly it, man. And I love the fact that friendship and community. And I think that's what's really cool about Bourbon Heads is you guys do those virtual tastings. I mean, how many times have we been on the phone together and you're setting everything up for that, you know, and we're sitting there talking about bourbon and life as you're essentially setting these tastings up for people. And it's crazy the community that bourbon brings. I mean, bourbon brought me to Tennessee. That your origin story essentially with Bourbon Heads is exactly how Staves & Co. started. Yep. So it's wild to me to think that this one common thing that people share could literally change people's lives as far as friendships, relationships, career choices, all kinds of things. So, yeah. So tell me some of the things that you guys have planned with Bourbon Heads. I know that there's a meetup coming up. Is that correct?
So we have a meetup next weekend in Houston. It's going to be hosted by one of our members. It's basically like a whiskey queue. Okay. It's going to be a big bottle share. There's people coming in from all over the country that are members, and we're going to cook a ton of barbecue. We're going to drink a bunch of bourbon and just have a great time together. On on a larger scale, we have a members retreat coming up in August. We rented out the lake house at Lake LBJ down in Texas, and we're going to take a lot of really nice bottles down there. We're all going to stay at the same house. We're going to, kind of talk over bourbon, get to know each other, put a face to a name and everything. I'm sure I'm going to meet some people down there for the first time.
Yeah.
We have a boat. There's a pool. We're just kind of going to solidify that community a little bit more.
That's awesome, man.
And solidify those friendships. So, really excited for that. Brett and I will be going somewhere this month. I haven't disclosed that location, but we are going somewhere, and we have about 10 locations we're looking at for a potential first speakeasy, and possibly clubhouse as well.
That's awesome, man.
So
I'm super stoked for you, just as a friend, to see what you guys are doing in the community and just how your life has changed because of bourbon and what you're doing with Bourbon Heads. I think it's awesome, man. And because of that, I still remember going to that bottle share and meeting you for the first time, meeting some of the members of Bourbon Heads, or it was kind of like a push for Bourbon Heads before you guys officially launched. And that was the first time I'd tried WLW. And that was the first time I'd tried some Willet Purple Tops and other things that were there at that bottle share. So when you're saying like giving people the opportunity through Bourbon Heads to try things that they may never even see in a store, much less be able to afford in a bar or to buy a bottle on the secondary market, because we all know, unless you're in one of these controlled states, your chances of getting any kind of BTAC, Pappy, any of the really, really allocated bottles at a decent price are almost slim and none. So, and when you said drink as much of that WLW as I wanted, I was still being extremely sparingly with that, but it was incredible, man. Yeah. So,
well, and even at that meetup where you and Matt were there, one of the local guys in Nashville brought that batch 6 EH Taylor.
Oh my God. And he fresh cracked it.
And same thing. He's like, have as much as you want. It's just, I love that. I love how generous people are with their bourbon and just get to try so many great things just from that friendship and community part of it.
And when people like with Bourbon Heads and with Staves and all the things that we do for our own separate bourbon communities, we know that the people in our communities appreciate the time and the effort, and for us, the money that we've spent on these bottles, and they're going to appreciate the things that we bring to these bottle shares. They're not going to mix, and of course, drink it how you drink it. But if you ever mix anything that I've picked with Coke, we are fighting. But drink it how you want to drink it, right? But no one.
Should we fight right now?
I think we should. But that's the thing, right? Is like all those people there, they appreciate the time and the effort from the distillery and the master distiller that went into these things, and they're not gonna disrespect a Pappy or a Michter's 20 or a Willet or a BTAC bottle by mixing it with anything. Yeah, they're gonna appreciate that spirit for what it is.
Another thing I've really enjoyed about Bourbon Heads is the members have made connections with each other. And so, like you said, a lot of people can't get those BTACs and those Pappies and all that stuff. And the members have been basically like helping each other acquire those bottles. And so like, hey, I have a connection with my local store. He has 3 lot Bs. And basically they, talk, converse, and find out a way where they can get those bottles. And if they didn't have that connection, then they wouldn't have those bottles. And so there's been a lot of that, a lot of, I guess, camaraderie where the members have gotten together, found a way. Like one guy, a store got like a whole barrel of Weller Foolproof, and the store was able to ship them. And so he was like, hey, who wants one? And a ton of people got a Weller Foolproof that never had tried Weller Foolproof before, never had a bottle or had only seen one at that, $250, $300 price point. So.
And that's what I think it's all about, is community. And completely random and off topic, I don't know if you've revisited the 117, but I got straight Robitussin. Straight Robitussin. I got a medicinal cherry on that.
So your leather on the nose, I got leather on the palate. It seemed a little dry, in my opinion. It's got a pretty solid oak flavor to it.
I got like, I've got a
Straight
cough.
Robitussin,
Straight Robitussin, man. I got a cough. Mom came in. Here's your Robitussin. And that's exactly what it tasted like to me just then. I don't want to sway your palate there, but and everyone's palate's different, and that's what I love about bourbon. But
I could maybe see like a slight medicinal note.
Dude, I got straight up Robitussin on that.
Yeah, I don't get Robitussin. But it was also like Brett and I, we drank a Willet Purple Top 10-year.
Mm-hmm.
And my first sip, I was like, Red Jolly Ranchers. I was like, that tastes like Red Jolly Ranchers. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, and a few weeks later, he revisited it, and he was like, dude, Red Jolly Ranchers. And so, like, you know, here in a few weeks, if I were to try it again, I might be like, hey, I get the Robitussin at that point.
Straight up Robitussin there. But no, so you've got the members meetup coming up with Bourbon Heads. You've got the thing going on in Houston next week. Tell me, do you guys, you know, you had the Prideful Goat pick. Do you guys have anything else coming up for your members, right? For picks?
We do. We have already picked a Knob Creek pick.
Okay.
We got sent a kit. So this is actually a cool story. One of our members' wives used to work in the industry, and she has connects with multiple master distillers. And so she had to connect with Fred No.
Okay.
And so Fred No, she contacted him and was like, hey, Bourbon Heads needs a Knob Creek pick. So he reached out to distribution and said, hey, Bourbon Heads gets the first pick that's going to go to Oklahoma. And so basically, I guess the rep called the store that we went through in Oklahoma and was like, hey, so I guess Bourbon Heads is getting this pick. And so they sent him the kit, and we tried a 8-year, a 9-year, and 10-year. They were all, you know, plus or minus a few months. And we ended up deciding on the 9-year. It was me, Brett, Cody Wilson, who owns George's Liquor and Modern Liquor in Oklahoma City.
Okay. And
Dwayne Poor, who helped us pick that along with our Bourbon Heads attorney.
So. Awesome. I love to see, and I don't know, maybe you can shoot me a little sample over, but I'd love to taste that. But
you know, there may be a bottle left over.
Oh God, you're a sweetheart. No, but I'm super stoked for you guys, man. Go ahead.
On that note, so barrel pick wise, I've been in talks with Four Roses.
Okay.
Been in talks with a local Maker's Mark rep in Oklahoma City. We've talked to Penelope. And so those will be the next 3 picks in store.
Awesome. Man, that is incredible. I just love tasting other people's picks, especially friends of mine. If our palates don't agree, I would love to see something that they would pick. And we're sitting here talking about medicinal cherries. I get it. You don't get it. But what else, you know, maybe that I could pick out on your pick that maybe you didn't get, or vice versa. You know, I know we've got the Elijah Craig pick coming up at some point. It'll show up. We're waiting on distribution on that, but we're getting ready to do our next pick, and we're super excited about that. And so just my excitement knowing that we have one coming up, and your excitement that yours is going to drop and you have other ones coming up, I can only imagine, you know, what that's going to do for your community and with Bourbon Heads. So are all your picks exclusive to your members only?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Well, so Cody, I guess, so the owner of the liquor store, he's a member as well, though. So technically, yes.
So tell us about the membership. Tell us what it entails, what you've got to do. How do you become a member of Bourbon Heads?
So you can go to bourbonheads.com. We also have a Discord. So if you go to any of our social medias, click on our link tree. There's links for our website, other social media. Discord should be a link for our marketplace for merchandise. But go to bourbonheads.com. And so our membership is an NFT. The NFT basically serves as a it's a digital token. It's a non-fungible token. And so the membership is on the blockchain. And so you'd go to our website, go to mint your membership. Each one of our characters is holding a bottle that looks like, a certain allocated bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go through, pick your character. And the membership is $2,500. We also just launched a pay over time plan.
Okay.
And so for the pay over time plan, it does have like a financing fee attached depending on which plan you pick. There's a 6-month, 12-month, and 18-month plan. By doing that, you do not receive your NFT up front. You're basically a prospective member at that point. So you do get access to our Discord and you get access to those member channels. But there's going to be some restrictions as far as like
Absolutely.
Once speakeasies come around, if you've only paid $175 or a $250 payment or whatever, versus the guy who came in and paid $2,500 up front, it's like we can't just, if we have the speakeasy and you've only paid that much, it's not fair for the other people for you to go into that bar and get a pour of old fashioned copper at, a minuscule price.
Right.
So, still fine tuning all that. But so you would pay for your membership. As of now, we don't have a speakeasy open. Like I had said,
Mm-hmm.
we are working on that. I actually got tons of emails today in regards to that. We have probably, I would say, $125,000 to $150,000 worth of bourbon.
Amazing.
That we have compiled so far for our members collection. And so when you buy your NFT is backed by the members collection.
Okay.
And so say right now there's 300 plus or minus NFTs that have been sold. And so the members who have those NFTs, if they wanted to sell that back to us, then they could sell that back to us at their fraction of the collection. So as of now, they wouldn't be getting their full $2,500 back. But if they got in and decided Bourbon Heads wasn't for them, then whatever the current market rate of the beginning of that quarter is, they could sell that NFT back to us and get some of their investment back.
Okay. So there is a somewhat of a backing there. And as far as your, as a membership, everything that it includes, you have access to all these events and the Discord and other things like that. What else, or maybe in the future, what does that actually look like going into the future, and what else do you think that is going to offer to your members coming up?
So we'll also have like Whiskey Riot or the Houston Whiskey Social, Kentucky Bourbon Fest, stuff like that. I've been in talks with a spirits marketing company and reached out to multiple venues this week, and we're planning our first Bourbon Heads Whiskey Fest. And so members would get either a discounted rate or potentially a free ticket to that.
Okay.
Depending on the event. I believe for the first, don't quote me on it, but for the first 1 or 2 whiskey festivals, I believe that the member gets a free ticket to it.
Awesome.
And so they'll be open to the public as well.
Right.
Just like all the other whiskey fests are. But so I'm putting that together. The speakeasies will be members only access. We're also opening a members clubhouse at some point. So there will be the idea is a clubhouse located centrally on the Bourbon Trail.
Okay.
So we want to have the collection there. And so the collection can be on display. And so people who are traveling the Bourbon Trail who aren't a member can come in and see it and be like, wow, this is what this club has. This is really cool.
So as far as your membership is concerned, right? I know you guys started out with a fairly high number, and we kind of discussed privately, you're cutting that number back.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us what all that entails and why that's happening.
Yeah. So we had, it's kind of misleading. We had about 4,400 people on our wait list.
Okay.
Before we actually went live and launched our memberships. And so, we're sitting there thinking, we have quite a bit of people interested. We should get close to selling out with this many people because we at that point had 5,000 tokens for sale.
Right.
And so when we launched, that wasn't the case. I think we ended up selling about 250 or whatever. And so it was a lot less than we expected. And so, but that's business.
That is business.
And so, we kind of had to pause, look at it and, make some decisions on how we could make the club still be what we wanted it to be. And so Brett and I and Dwayne and I, we all conversed about it, and we even talked to our members about it, and polled them and polled their interest on it. And so we called it Mission 1500. We're going to scale back to 1500 memberships instead. And so with those 1500 memberships, there will be 1500 all access memberships.
Right.
And so the all access memberships, say we have in the future a speakeasy here in Nashville, a speakeasy in Oklahoma City, Dallas, Louisville, say we had those four. The all access membership could get you into any of those speakeasies. And so what we want to do as well with those speakeasies, say we open that Nashville speakeasy, then we can offer a local membership to that Nashville speakeasy. But if you have that local Nashville membership, you can't go to Louisville and use it there. It's only for Nashville. Okay. And so that would be, depending on location and location size, I would say between 150 and 300 of those local memberships. And we haven't set a price point on what those would be yet.
We're talking about speakeasies and memberships with speakeasies. I know there's a local place here that has quite a few other locations, two in Georgia, I think one in Miami, one in Texas. So and I'm not going to say names of this place, but it's a great place. But how do you think opening up to these local memberships specifically, and then having other places around the country where you get that full access, how does Bourbon Heads elevate the experience of a speakeasy as opposed to these other places that are popping up and have been around for a while?
So some of those other places where they are speakeasy, and they're great concepts, they're great bars. I think I know which one you're talking about, and I've been to plenty other speakeasies as well. But at those speakeasies, you go in, and a lot of the times you still pay that premium price. Yeah. And so that's where we want to be different. This is going to be a members only speakeasy. Sure, there's going to be a public facing concept out front, or a public facing bar where people can come and still enjoy cocktails,
right,
and still enjoy their time. But there's going to be that, kind of mystery of what's behind that door, what's in the back, what's that speakeasy. And so in that speakeasy, the difference would be that the members would come in, and whereas, say, in one of those speakeasies you're talking about that's not Bourbon Heads, they're paying $30 to $40 for a 1 ounce pour of Old Rip Van Winkle. If they were a member and they came back to the Bourbon Heads speakeasy, then they'd come back there and pay, somewhere between probably like $7 to $15 for a pour of Old Rip Van Winkle.
So you are going to be offering these hard to find, highly allocated bottles, and you're not looking to work people over on the cost of a pour, because everyone always wants to try it.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've been in a bar and have seen a George T. Stagg, and it had been maybe like a 2018 or, something that before even I started collecting and got into the bourbon scene, like, man, I would love to try that, but not at a $90 to $100 price point for a 1.5 ounce pour.
And we've all been to that bar. And, you say you haven't tried that and you really want to try it, but you don't want to fork over that kind of coin for it. So, I mean, I was at a bar just probably a month or two ago, and they had the new Michter's Celebration, and they wanted $1,400 for like a 1 ounce pour.
$1,400.
Yeah, $1,400. And I mean, it's just outrageous. And yes, I wanted to try that, but I wasn't going to fork $1,400 over for it. Whereas I have been at a bar in Lexington, Kentucky, and I walked in, and it was just me. They had just opened. It was before my cousin's wedding. And I started talking to the bartender. We were having good conversation, talking about bourbon, just talking about life and stuff, just getting to know each other. And they had the whole BTAC flight. And I said, hey, I was like, I want to have some of that George T. Stagg. How much is it? And he's like, $40 for 2 ounces. And he pulled it down, and it was a 2010 GTS. It was 143 proof. And so, like, when you find that, you find that unicorn. I want Bourbon Heads experience to be, you can always get that unicorn.
So okay, so enough about Bourbon Heads. Let's talk about Lewis. So tell me one of your greatest, funnest, whatever stories around bourbon and around whiskey that just kind of speaks to you.
So Brett and Kevin Carlson,
Bourbon Notes, Will It.
and Cody Keglick. They were my bros back in Oklahoma City. They all moved away. But I mean,
cue the Sarah McLachlan music right now.
we were, we were bourbon bros. I'm just gonna say it. And we would get together and we would have the greatest of pours. I mean, I had Kentucky Vintage 21-year rye. I had Willet 25-year 100 proof rye. I had Michter's 20-year, multiple Van Winkles. Like, I mean, you name it. We had gone through some bottles. So I think we went through like 2 flights of BTAC.
Wow.
And so one night Brett was like, "Hey, I have a full flight of BTAC. Let's open it." And so he brought it over to Kevin's house, and one thing led to another. We'd had a few pours, and we made Sazerac 18-year old fashions and Thomas Handy old fashions. And a lot of people are gonna cringe at that, but I 10 out of 10 recommend that Thomas Handy old fashioned is the greatest old fashioned I've ever had.
So any of you guys out there watching and listening, if you happen to find a Handy at MSRP, make you a little old fashioned with it.
Yeah, just spare an ounce and a half of that. Whip up your old fashioned recipe.
Just don't use the maraschino cherries. Please go get some really good Luxardos or something.
Some high quality cocktail cherry.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just high quality everything for that.
So I would say that's a really good memory. It's not every day you get to have a Thomas Handy old fashioned, but I mean beyond that, our trip that we take each year with our group of guys, those are some really great times. I mean, it's just the guys.
Yep.
We're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
We have a ton of bourbon. In some town, we go to some bars, eat some good food, kind of just hang out and just converse, talk about life, and we do it over some great pours. And so, I mean, I could go on and on and on about all the memories I have and some great memories I have that involve bourbon. I mean, even just meeting you and Matt, it was over bourbon.
It was over bourbon. Did you talk about where it started for him? Yeah, where did bourbon start for you? I think we've kind of talked about this just privately, but
yeah. So growing up, I saw my dad would drink bourbon every now and then. He had a bottle of Maker's Mark or whatever at the house, and so I think I was like 4 years old, and my mom told me this story. My mom and dad did. I guess I had walked up and grabbed my dad's cup of bourbon, and I grabbed it, and like before he could notice, I had taken just like a little swig, and I put the cup back down. And he's like, "Oh no!" Like, and he's like, "Oh shoot!" And I looked at him and I go, "That's good bourbon, Daddy." And so I would say that's where it started. But my whole family is from Kentucky. We have a farm in Bourbon County. I would kind of say bourbon's in my blood.
There you go.
But I kind of saw him drinking it growing up, and from there, I remember when I was like in college, I really wasn't like the biggest bourbon fan. And then I managed a liquor store for part of my college career as my college job. And so I started, reps would come in and I would start drinking more bourbon and started to get to liking it a little more. My dad amassed a pretty solid collection, and so I started kind of trying things he had. And one of the first things I tried was a bottle of Eagle Rare 10-year. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Eagle Rare still is a great product.
It's
product
a great
today.
product today.
I've just had a lot of stuff that's I would say beyond that, but I'm not going to knock it. Eagle Rare is still great. If I was only allowed to drink Eagle Rare for the rest of my life, I would be content. It's a good product. So, but I started with that, and my dad was having a buddy come over, and they would drink some stuff on the back porch, and so I started kind of hanging out, and I was like, I tried some Blanton's Gold, I tried some OKI 12-year, and I was like, bourbon's not too bad. And so from there it's a slippery slope,
It is a
and
very, very slippery slope.
thousands of dollars later, and
Severe credit card
hundreds
debt
and hundreds of bottles and all that. But at the end of it, with all that I've spent, with all the bottles I've had just as many great experiences.
And I think that's what it's about for me, is the experiences, the relationships. That's what it's about, man. Like I've had the best conversations over a pour of bourbon and a cigar. I don't need to, even though, going out is cool, but I don't need to go out. Let's just sit on the back porch and let's have a pour and let's talk about life. And I think that's the one thing for me anyway, that's different than any other spirit or any other, anything that you're going to drink is we look at it and we have those relationships that we built, but then we can appreciate the history of the bottle and the history that the work that went into it. And to me, it almost goes like hand in hand with, talking about life and our history and where we've come from and what greater spirit to drink than something that's made right here in America. And what's really brought us together, literally myself and you, and also the community that we've built around this spirit. So, but man, I really appreciate having you on the podcast tonight. I'm super stoked for you and Brett and Bourbon Heads and all the things that you guys are doing. Maybe I'll come out to one of your meets one of these days and meet the rest of your members. But
would love for it.
Who knows, man? Who knows? But again, guys, if you are not following Bourbon Heads, make sure you do that on all the platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. It is Bourbon Heads, no spaces. And if you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do that on Spotify. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Where do you see yourself in the next few years, man?
I'm hoping we have a handful of speakeasies open. Hoping we have our clubhouse established. I want to get to that 1,500 member number. And just have a solid foundation and, a solid group of guys and gals that love to come together over bourbon. And so that's our goal, is to get those speakeasies up and get what we promised to the members, and just to capitalize and make sure that we deliver the best service and membership that we can. So I would say a 3-year goal would be to have 5 locations open.
Amazing.
So,
well, remember that goal, and remember why we're doing that. It's the relationships, it's the community. And that's it. So thanks for being here. All you guys out there, drink responsibly and have a great night. Cheers.